Hey everybody, this is B-Lit, and this is the B-Lit Podcast. This is episode 7. Today, we're going to be talking about EA Fighter Pack 3 from Injustice 2. Very excited about that one. And we're also going to be comparing Justice League and Thor Ragnarok, which I just saw back to back. So first off, EA. Holy crap. This EA fiasco has been just absurd. Now, I enjoyed the first EA Battlefront. It wasn't perfect. There were complaints that I had with it, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun. The Battlefront series, back from, was it mid-2000s? I had Battlefront 2 on the PlayStation 2. It was a very popular game of choice when friends came over to play. So it holds a special place in my heart. When I played the new Battlefront 2, I played the beta, and it was fun. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. I'm still holding out for something very close to that original, but I don't think we're ever going to get that. But it was a fun game, and I feel it was better than the first Battlefront. I was excited for the game. Then we found out about this progression system and the loot crates, which, these microtransactions and loot crates have been one of the driving forces behind my lack of enjoyment with video games. And it's a trend that I hope it dies. I can't expect it to, just because the majority of people don't seem to care, to the same degree that I do. They don't seem to care enough to constantly talk about it and to put their foot down on every single example of the loot crates and the microtransactions and all these crazy, stupid things. I stopped playing Rocket League when they put in microtransactions. DLC is fine, give me a car and I'll pay for it because I wanted to support you guys. And I did. There were so many things that I bought that I really was never planning on using in a game like Rocket League. But when they went to loot crates, I'm done. I'm out. I can't, and I honestly felt bad that I had supported them thus far. I felt almost kind of betrayed that they went down that route. Until people are willing to say all loot crates are bad, all of this, chipping away at your wallet after you've already bought a full game, that all of these practices are bad, until they're able to say that and to fight for it and to actually act on it, I can't have hope that this stuff is going to go away. But I'm very, very happy that in this case, this egregious example, I'm really happy that we won this one for now. It was a temporary win. I'm sure that they will be coming back after the holidays. They really want to get those sales, Black Friday, all the Christmas stuff. They really want to make their money on that. They couldn't afford any more bad PR. Disney wasn't exactly supportive of the PR that they were getting. And most likely they were the reasons why it was turned off. But, I expect that this fight is not over. And when they said temporary, I believe them on that one. I'm pretty sure they will be back. And they'll be trying to figure out some way that they can milk people even more. And it's really a bummer that this game that I wanted to play, I was really excited to play, I'm not going to get it. And I've been consistent with my position on these things, and I just I'm at a loss for words, honestly. It's so disappointing to be in this situation. We won, but it doesn't feel like it's enough on this point. We won a single battle, but there's still this giant freaking war, and for me, I feel like I'm a guy who has been on the forefront of it, but I don't really feel that I can trust the people behind me. If that makes sense. Yeah, in this case, they got my back this time. In this case, they stood up for the things that I've been, more, if I'm going with this, whole thing, they've stood behind me, and they walked the path that I've been fighting, but I don't know that I can trust them to keep walking that path. For so many people, they defend Blizzard when it comes to loot crates in Overwatch. Oh, they're just cosmetic. They're just cosmetic. And if we were going to rate loot boxes on how impactful they are to the experience, then purely cosmetic items would be on the lowest end, right? But at the same time, it's still a loot crate. It's still the same thing. It's still the gambling. And I don't understand how people don't see that. How they're just willing to completely look the other way on a thing like this. Just because it's not the worst example doesn't mean it's not still bad. Crap, man. Anyway, moving on from the EA thing, I'm really glad that we won this one. I hope that as a group, as gamers, we continue to fight this fight. I don't see it happening, but holy crap, I hope. And I feel like if there's ever a time that we were going to get something done, this would be the time now. So my fingers are crossed. We're going to move on from EA. Injustice 2 Fighter Pack 3. Holy crap, I did not see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming. Holy crap. If you don't know, I'm a huge fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have, let's see, I think I've got 2 NES games for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Do I have Turtles in Time? I don't know if I have Turtles in Time. I have a bunch of Ninja Turtles video games. I have a bunch of costumes as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from when I was a kid. I used to always watch the cartoons. I got into martial arts in no small part thanks to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that's currently my job right now. It's been a really, really big thing. I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And to be able to play as them in an actual fighting game is freaking fantastic, and I did not see it coming. I really, truly had no freaking idea. But when I saw Raphael in the coat, I lost my freaking mind. Right now, the only thing that's bringing me down even a little bit, the only thing that is preventing the hype train from being full steam ahead is how they will play. I'm pretty sure that we're going to get one character, but they're going to somehow all fight together. I think I don't know if we're going to get like a lead character and then everybody else comes around for certain attacks. I'm not sure how that's going to go. The only thing that I can think of is that maybe they'd come in like on special attacks and behave sort of like Black Manta's missiles, when he comes and he shoots them out, but if you hit him in the meantime, they just veer off to the side. That's the only thing that I can kind of think of as to their behavior. But who would the lead character be? Surely it would be Leonardo, right? Well, in the trailer, they had Raphael. I don't know. Would they allow you to switch the different characters? Like switch their bandana, but would it still be the same lead character? Are you going to be able to switch between the actual characters? I don't want to have to learn multiple movesets. That's my biggest concern. I don't want to learn 4 movesets for one character. That's too much for me. It really is. I don't have that kind of time anymore. There was a time when I did. That time is not today. That time is long gone. I really don't want to have to learn 4 different movesets, not only to play them, but also to fight against them. If someone decides, hey, I'm going to use Michelangelo, oh, you finally learned Michelangelo's strings? Now I'm going to switch to Donatello. You don't know his strings, do you? No, I don't. So now I got to learn Donatello's strings. I don't want to have to memorize 4 extra movesets. And that's my biggest issue, playing as the character and also fighting against the character. I don't want to have to deal with a crap ton of stuff like that. So I'm very curious to see what they do as far as the design of the character. I am anxious to get to play this character because Teenage Mutant freaking Ninja Turtles. I can't believe it. I'm freaking ecstatic. Now, here's the big one. I saw Justice League. When was it? I think it was either Saturday. I believe it was Saturday night. Then I saw Thor. Was it Monday night? Yes, it was Monday night. So what I want to do is kind of compare them. Justice League. We'll start off with Justice League. It was different. It was different from the previous movies. It had more humor, and that's not a good thing. A lot of times people's critique of the DC movies was that the tone was too dark. Okay? I'll say it this way. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with having a dark tone. You're not supposed to have a dark tone. Sorry, you're not supposed to have a light tone if you're a superhero movie. There is no right and wrong when it comes to a tone for a superhero movie. And that's one of the things that I've always gotten really upset about when it comes to critiques for actually really anything. There's a difference between what you want the movie to be and what the movie is trying to be. And to say that you don't like a dark tone is not a fault of the movie. You know, it's like watching a Teletubbies show and saying that it's too childish. Well, of course it is. That's what they want it to be. That's what it's designed as. That's not a fair complaint. That's what they want it to be. Now, if you're going to say, oh, it's too childish in some parts and then too adult in other parts, okay, well then that's a more fair criticism. If it's inconsistent in its tone, that's all fine and dandy. But just because you personally wanted it to be a different tone does not mean that it's bad. Does not mean that you should critique it in that way. I hope that makes sense. So I've always had issues with that critique. And unfortunately, I think they listened to that and they tried to put more humor into the movie, and it didn't work. It felt very much like a mismatch. Some of it felt like it was that original kind of tone that not necessarily. I never really felt it was all that dark. I just felt it was a little bit more grounded than some of the Marvel. Some of the Marvel stuff is it has its moments, but it is also very lighthearted. I felt DC goes a little bit more into the grounded aspect and doesn't really come out of it very often. It stays in that tone. The dark tone is consistent. So the humor really clashed, I felt. Some of it was okay. Not a lot of it, though. I felt that the Flash was really annoying. The Flash, after about 5 minutes of his jokes, I was completely done with him. I think his first scene, I was done with him in his first scene. Didn't like him. His jokes were, they were all the same joke, essentially. Hey, I'm awkward. Ha 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 ha. That's it. That was the whole thing. And that gets old really fast. Really, really fast. You might say it gets old in a flash. I'm sorry. Anyway, you know what? That's a joke that the Flash would make. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. The humor was really rough. I didn't like it. There's also a point where Batman did this like physical gag where he was on the ground, like writhing in pain. That was stupid. That was really dumb. It completely like cut Batman down from what you want from he wasn't Batman in that moment. He was a gag. And that was dumb. Holy crap, that was dumb. Anyway, fight scenes. Meh. Or okay, I guess. The one fight scene that stood out, and they actually cut a little bit of it, seemingly from the trailers. There was more of it shown than what was actually in the movie. Wonder Woman. The coolest part of the Wonder Woman scene was when she came in. This was a scene that was shown in the trailers. There's like this bank robbery. Well, it wasn't really a robbery, as it turns out. But she comes in and there's hostages on the ground and they try to shoot the hostages and she just freaking speeds through them, deflecting all of the bullets. They're all automatic bullets. She's just deflecting them with her bracelets, just freaking lightning fast. It was fantastic. It looked so cool. That was awesome. But then there was almost no fight. It was just like, one person, 2 or 3 people got hit, and then it cuts to something and then cuts back, and then she is just beating somebody else up. But it wasn't satisfying. The fight scenes had good moments in them, but as far as the entire scene as itself, they lacked impact. I'll say they lacked impact. Including the final fight. Final fight sucked. It sucked. It sucked really bad. I didn't like it at all. It was... I don't know. It is just bad. I feel like some of the problems with that scene was that it was trying to cycle between a bunch of different people, and not all of them were fighting. So it didn't necessarily feel like a real final battle. It felt like distractions, I guess. Like the fight wasn't really meant as a fight. And actually, you know what? It wasn't. The fight wasn't actually important. The fight actually was a distraction, which sucks. I mean, that's not satisfying as a watcher. It's not satisfying when a fight is not center stage in an action movie. You want fights to be huge and to be exciting and to have impact. But they just didn't in this movie. I didn't really like the fight scenes at all. They had moments in them. They had cool things that happened in them. Just across the board, there was one moment with the Flash, and I mean, I'm not really gonna. I hesitate on saying that it's not a spoiler, and then talking about it. I'll just say that there was a scene with the Flash, and it was technically a fight scene in time involving the Flash and another character. And it was a neat idea, and it was a neat scene, but it didn't feel like a fight scene. It just felt like a scene. Something was happening. It didn't feel like a fight. It wasn't satisfying. It lacked impact. I've said this like 6 times now. It lacked impact. I feel like that's really the thing I could say about pretty much everything. Lacked impact. The humor lacked impact. Fight scenes lacked impact. Plot lacked impact. Characters, in some ways, actually, most characters except for Wonder Woman, lacked impact. Wonder Woman ran the show on this one. I jokingly mentioned on Twitter that Justice League is Wonder Woman 2, and it kind of is. She really came out as the star of this universe now. I am surprised by that. I did notice that towards the end of the marketing campaign, there was a lot more Wonder Woman shown, and I think that probably came from the success of Wonder Woman, undoubtedly. But I'm also thinking maybe she's the only one one of the only ones that's given a crap. I'm not sure, how this production has been going, but with directors changing off. I don't know how the writing is going. I know that a lot of writing has been changing. They're trying to change up the tune, change up the tone, doing all these reshoots. You know, I wonder how many people are still really invested in this after all of the course corrections, after all of the craziness behind the scenes. I wonder how many people are still, 100% on board, still really pushing. I liked Cyborg. I think he did a pretty decent job. I think Flash, you know what? Maybe it wasn't fair to say that. Actually, thinking about it now, the Flash actor probably did the best that he could with what he was given. It wasn't his fault that Flash was annoying. It was the writing. He was given awful lines. I don't know how you could possibly make those things work when it's the same joke every time. He probably did fine considering what he was given. Aquaman, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller was Flash. Jason Momoa as Aquaman, he was pretty cool. He had cool scenes. I think he did a good job in his action scenes. I'm not going to call them fight scenes because they just don't feel like it. I think he actually did a pretty decent job. Now that I think about it, I think he executed things about as well as you could have. Ben Affleck, I guess he did okay. It felt as though his parts were very subdued. I felt his parts were kind of subdued. He wasn't really given dramatic kind of opportunities in the movie. There wasn't a ton placed on his shoulders. He served his part well, I think. Nothing really taken away. And then Cyborg I thought was also really good. I actually really enjoyed Cyborg at the very beginning when it was there were some scenes with him and his father. I think it was actually probably the first time that we saw him. He was really good. I liked that. I was invested. I really enjoyed seeing the dynamic and kind of getting an idea of his anger towards the whole situation and seeing where he was. And he did a really good job of selling it. I freaking felt it. So maybe it wasn't fair to say that, Gal Gadot, whatever. I have no idea how to pronounce it. Maybe it wasn't exactly fair saying that she was the only one trying. But it was possible that it's just what they were given. Just wasn't kind of all there. I'm going to give a rating to Justice League 6 out of 10. I enjoyed it. With all those, I think I almost exclusively talked about negatives, but I still enjoyed it overall. I just think it needs some work, and I don't necessarily like the course correction that they're trying to do. That's not what they started as. That's not what they initially gave us, and I don't want them to become Marvel. I want them to be their own thing. I don't want them to try to replicate what Marvel has been doing. I can watch Marvel. I want to watch DC too, and I want them to be different. I want them to have a different experience, or else what's the point? And that takes us right to Thor Ragnarok. Now, one of my things with Marvel, all of their movies are fun. They're enjoyable. But one of my biggest complaints with the Marvel movies is that they undercut everything with a joke. And it feels very often that you can't have a real moment in a Marvel movie without something ruining it. That sometimes I want to let a sad moment be. Sometimes I want an angry moment to just be. Don't undercut every moment with something that we consider a negative emotion. Don't undercut every moment like that with a freaking joke. Let it go sometimes, And Marvel has had a history of undercutting those moments, and I hate that so much. but I still love the movies. Thor Ragnarok, surprisingly enough, had the most humor, I think, of any Marvel movie. And it felt at times it was too much. But I was surprised with how much it worked, how often it worked. And at the same time, they had moments where, something happened and it was significant, and they undercut it with a joke, but it didn't hit me as hard as it did in previous Marvel movies when they did it. One such example, this was put in some marketing material, but I will say minor spoilers. Everyone knows that Loki is in the movie. He's in the trailers and stuff like that. So his part of it isn't really a spoiler. But anyway, minor spoilers. Nothing regarding story whatsoever. At some point, Loki and Thor are together in an elevator, and they're talking to each other. And Thor mentions that, Loki said something about Thor respecting him, and Thor said, "Oh, I think the world of you. I, as a kid, looked up to you, and I always imagined us fighting together side by side. But that's just not what you are. That's not who you are, and I can't imagine doing that with you anymore. That's just, we've gone on different paths. It's nothing wrong with you. It's just how it is." And it was a moment of just kind of accepting that he's never going to have the brother that he imagined having. And it was not so much a moment of disappointment, because that moment of disappointment was implied to have happened a long time ago. But it was a moment of acceptance of that disappointment. Acceptance of knowing your brother is never going to be the person that you can count on, never going to be the person that you want them to be, never going to be the person that you believe that they could be, that they're going to continue to do the things that destroy, that are negative. And it was a pretty significant moment. And the way that Loki responded to it really played it up. And that was a good freaking moment. And it was really kind of accented by us knowing these characters for years, and by this always being a very consistent kind of theme, and Thor's acceptance of it and his honesty about it towards Loki, just saying it so bluntly, saying that, "I know you're never going to be the person that I can count on. You're my brother. I respect you. I love you and everything, but you're just not going to be that." And just almost saying that, "I know you can't be a good guy." That the way that Loki responded to it, you could see it on his face. It hurt. It really hurt him. And that was a good moment. They let it go for just a few seconds. Then they had a little joke behind it. But what I think really worked with this is that even after the joke, somehow it still lingered. And I think that's why I think that maybe that's what it was about this movie in particular that didn't feel as bad as the previous ones. You had some of those moments, and they were undercut, but somehow they still lingered on a little bit more. I don't know what it is. I'll probably have to watch the movie again. This is one movie I probably will actually buy. This may actually be the first Marvel movie that I buy. No, that's not true. I believe that I have Civil War. I believe that I bought Civil War. I'm not entirely sure. Do not quote me on that one. I may not actually have Civil War. You know what? I'm going to check real quick. Let me look over here. Do I have Civil War? I don't have Civil War. Yes, I do have Civil War. I do have Civil War. Okay, yes. Okay, I do have Civil War. So it will be the second Marvel movie that I buy. So yeah, something about this movie didn't hurt me as bad on those undercuts, and that was one such example. That was the one that really sat in my mind the most. But moving on from that, Hela, I think, was probably the best Marvel villain that we've had to date. I actually enjoyed her very, very much, and it was very cool to see her kind of have a connection to kind of ancient lore in this universe that we didn't know about. I don't want to spoil anything. I'll just say that her motivations were interesting when you compare what we know of Asgard now. She brought a whole new lore to Asgard that we didn't know about, and that was really cool. That was really intriguing, and it how should I say this? It almost felt right for her to be there. It almost felt right, her motivations and the things that she was doing. It made sense, and it felt like, you know what? She deserves to be there. That this is a good freaking character. Yes, she didn't get a ton of screen time, but I think that she probably was so far the best Marvel villain to date in my eyes. If you don't, hold on. Let me bring that back a little bit. Maybe I spoke too soon on that one as well, because you did have Baron Zemo. Was that what? I can't remember his name. I think it was Baron Zemo from Civil War. He was a very unique villain because he didn't really fight them. He just set up events, and that was a cool twist that we hadn't seen before. So maybe I think he probably would take that one, but Hela would be a very close second. Not a close second, actually, now that I think about it. But she'd be number 2. She'd be number 2 at the end of the day. She'd be number 2. And I really enjoyed her. I thought she was great. But my biggest enjoyment out of this movie was the fight scenes. Holy crap, there were some really cool fight scenes. I think I enjoyed every fight scene with Hela. I enjoyed the fight scene with Hulk and Thor in the Gladiator arena from the trailers. It wasn't one of my favorites though, but I still enjoyed it. I think it would probably be my least favorite fight scene. I enjoyed the beginning intro fight scene and the last one with the whole big climax at the end. I enjoyed those scenes. They were really well done. They had impact. They were enjoyable, and I found myself wanting to watch those fight scenes again, and searching on YouTube just to see if anybody had put up some clips of those fight scenes, because they were just really cool. They were nice to look at. They were cool to watch. They were cool to experience. They were actual fight scenes. They had impact. They satisfied the itch that you have when you go to see an action movie. And so I wish that there were more fight scenes, just because they were so well done. And I would have preferred a little bit less humor, a little bit more fighting, but there were enough fight scenes that I was still happy. I still enjoyed the movie, and my rating for Thor is actually a 9 out of 10. I really freaking liked it. Again, I had critiques of it. I'd like the humor to come down a little bit. I don't want to go that far, especially, Thor. Chris Hemsworth has actually really, really good comedy chops. He's really good, but just out of principle, the humor was good, but just out of principle, I'd like to have a little bit less, and some more fight scenes, and less undercutting serious moments with a joke. Even though it didn't feel as bad this time, they're still doing it. I want a little bit more of that that emotion in big moments like that. But this was a good freaking movie. I enjoyed it. So in the Thor Ragnarok versus Justice League review, Thor wins, and it was a very solid win. I enjoyed both movies, but Thor got the better of the Justice League this time, and I'm really excited to see where Thor goes from here. This was a really interesting trilogy for Thor, and this was one heck of a way to end his little arc. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where Thor goes from here. But yeah, that was podcast number 7. I greatly appreciate you guys for coming through. What I would like to do is propose a few more movies for the next podcast. I mentioned it before, Dragon Ball History of Trunks. That one is still up there on the list. I also have X-Men Days of Future Past. Yes, X-Men Days of Future. Yes, the Rogue Cut. I had to remember if I said that correctly. And I'm also debating about Punisher. I may do a Punisher review. I am currently on episode 11 right now. I was supposed to stream, and I made the mistake of thinking I could watch one episode before I streamed and be able to just, put it down and go to streaming. I messed up. I done goofed. 10 episodes later, I'm now on episode 11, and I'm really freaking excited. Did not get to stream, but yeah, I think I'll put that one up as well, so you guys can vote on which review you would like to see. So that's Days of Future Past, Rogue Cut, Dragon Ball Z History of Trunks. I want to see if it actually aged well. I really hope it did. Fingers crossed. Bardock, Father of Goku, did not age well. I found that out. And the Punisher Netflix series. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching.